Transfer portal is open, which means we have players close to getting to teams. Let's talk about them. And welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we are doing a little bit of a different format here lately for the Big Ten Huddle. I don't know if you've noticed, but we've cut down on our episode time, and we've also tried to do a better job of segmenting episodes a little bit better as well. One thing that Zach and I want to do going into 2026 is we want to try and make these episodes a bit more concise. That doesn't mean we won't have the fun, that doesn't mean we won't have the enjoyment, but for our time's sake, for your time's sake, and for some of the advice I've been given lately on podcasting, we're going to cut these down to about 30 to 40 minute episodes with 3 segments in each one. In addition to that, this will also help keep me better on track for you with being able to cover football and basketball. If you notice here next to me, if you're watching on YouTube, we do have a basketball segment at the end. I've not done enough basketball this year, and I need to get back into that, so we are going to consistently be giving you basketball content on the show. At least one segment almost every day. If Zach's on, we probably won't talk basketball just because he doesn't know basketball as well. But on the other segments, on the other shows, you can be promised some basketball content with us getting into the basketball season. All right, please do like, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on podcast, a 5-star rating and review would be greatly appreciated, as it does help out the show a ton. But in this episode of the Big Ten Huddle, we're getting into 3 different segments. Number 1, getting into the Big Ten portal targets, some guys who are going to be visiting or lining up visits to go to Big Ten teams. Whether they're already from the Big Ten or coming to the Big Ten, whatever that might be. I want to give some early thoughts on this Oregon-Indiana matchup and kind of get through, what's the thought process of, could this game be different, and how could this game be different? Looking at the game originally and looking at the game now of Oregon and Indiana, what the differences are. And then finally, we'll end with my Big Ten basketball Friday night takeaways, as we saw 4 games of a lot of fun in those games. Well, not so much fun for certain teams, but other teams, it was a fun one. Ohio State came back from a 15-point deficit. Nebraska looks fantastic, getting a gritty win over Michigan State. Going to be a lot of good stuff, so let's go ahead and get into it. Big Ten transfer portal targets. Let's go ahead and get to 5 Big Ten teams, not 5 Big Ten teams, 5 transfer portal targets who could be going to the Big Ten, dare I say trending toward the Big Ten. There's a lot of talk about visits with these guys. Doesn't mean they aren't visiting any place else. However, there is one guy in here. He's the number 5 guy to, well, I won't say the school. I'll just keep you guessing until we get to them. That very, very much so looks like they will be either visiting or going to these schools to play their football there. And the number 1, as I have him right here next to me, is Koi Perich of Minnesota. Now, Koi Perich, it's still early on in the transfer portal. Guys can still hop in, but a lot of the guys, I mean, there's over 2,000 football players in the transfer portal right now. So we have a lot of them, but we could see more enter in. We'll see how it goes. But Koi Perich of Minnesota announced, well, the media announced for him, very, very late before the transfer portal opened up, that he would be going into the transfer portal, and immediately kind of took a lot of people by storm. He's the number 13 player in the On3 industry transfer portal, the number 1 overall safety. Koi Perich does have technically 3 years of eligibility remaining if he does decide to take a red shirt, if there's an injury or something like that. God forbid. Obviously, we wouldn't want that to happen to Koi Perich. But I've always liked Koi Perich. I think he's an electric player. I think he has a ton of athleticism. Led it was either the nation or the Big Ten in interceptions his freshman year. Led the Big Ten in interceptions his freshman year. Wanted to go back and check that. With 5 interceptions in the Big Ten. Nobody was even tied with him. He was up there all by himself. And he was originally thought, and I originally thought, that you would get a whole lot of Ohio State interest for Koi Perich here. But according to the reporting of Pete Nakos, Ohio State, quote, does not seem to be a factor in this one, end quote. I mean, not a factor was really the quote there. Sorry, I misquoted Pete there. But not a factor. Ohio State is, quote, not a factor in this recruitment as it's looking right now. The Big Ten team that does seem to be going after Koi Perich, and this was the other one that I thought would be likely, is Oregon, as Dylan Thieneman is likely going to be entering the NFL draft, and Oregon needs a replacement for Dylan Thieneman. Now, are they a like for like comparison? No, not exactly, but Koi Perich definitely could play that role. Perich, with the awesome freshman season, came back in 2025 and he struggled. He was trying to balance playing offense and defense, some special teams, and he had a new defensive coordinator and Danny Collins. And Danny Collins is a brand new defensive coordinator. He came with some issues this season as well, and there's a thought process that maybe things didn't go so well. But Koi Perich was paid very well at Minnesota. Over $1 million was the rumor of how much he was getting there. Unfortunately, it does not look like either that was enough money or he got enough development, whatever that might be. You can, go to your own conclusions on that. We don't know. It's all rumors at this point. But Perich, even with the 2025 struggles, is a player with high upside. He was on the athletics freak list because of his leaping ability, his ability to play both sides of the ball. He's probably the closest thing we have to Travis Hunter in college football right now. I know Jacob Rodriguez did some stuff this season at Texas Tech, but offense and defense, playing the game like Travis Hunter did. Koi Perich is probably the closest thing that we have, and it just didn't work out for him a whole lot. So Perich didn't have a whole lot of connection to Oregon in his high school recruitment. I couldn't find any documented ties to an offer or anything like that out there. But Dan Lanning definitely sees Koi Perich as somebody who could be kind of a Dylan Thieneman 2.0 for them type of deal. He fits very well into their Tampa 2 type of scheme that they'll be doing, and even with Taj LaPoy leaving, you would think that Dan Lanning is going to keep that kind of scheme and everything going with whoever the next, most likely Chris Hampton, the next coordinator is going to be there for Oregon. So a lot of interesting stuff there. We'll see how it ends up, but right now it looks like Koi Perich is going to be visiting Oregon at some point. I would not expect a decision very quickly, though. I think this is one where Oregon right now is trying to focus more on their roster and their playoff spot. But early on, it does look like there has been a connection between Oregon and Oregon and Koi Perich. Heck, there could be a visit coming up soon, and there could be a commitment coming up soon. It's just one of those situations where I would not expect it soon. Could it happen soon? Sure, but I would not expect it soon, as it does seem like Oregon is probably focusing more on the playoff run right now more than anything else. The second player is Nick Marsh of Michigan State. And right now it looks like Nick Marsh is trending toward the state of Indiana. Now, the state of Indiana includes two programs, well, really three, but I don't think Purdue's in on this one, that could be going after him. And Indiana is one of them. Yes, Nick Marsh is the national number 22 player in the On3 industry transfer portal rankings, and the number 3 wide receiver. So Indiana would seem like a perfect fitting spot there for his talent and everything else. But Notre Dame is in on this one as well. And Notre Dame, according to Pete Nakos, had a visit on January 2nd. That's yesterday. Yesterday. I'm recording this on, I am recording this on the 2nd. So, but today, when you're listening to this, January 3rd, he is supposed to be visiting Indiana. So we'll see what happens there. Obviously, you never know if these visits happen until they happen. Transfer portal visits are a little bit more, I don't know if you could call those better or more likely. Just kind of depends. So I would expect him to be there, though, especially back to back like this. Could Nick Marsh just up and commit to Notre Dame and not even visit Indiana? Sure, but I don't know why anybody wouldn't take the opportunity to visit Indiana right now. I mean, Nick Marsh would be an immediate impact player for Indiana with Elijah Surratt moving on. I mean, they could possibly keep Omar Cooper Jr. and Charlie Becker. He still has years of eligibility. I don't even think he's ready to go to the draft yet. I think he's only a sophomore this year. So Nick Marsh could be the guy to come in to kind of replace Elijah Surratt, be one of those big body wide receivers. He fills that need of losing their key receiver Surratt this season, and he's going to get a lot of volume, a lot of production. Obviously Notre Dame with CJ Carr, they can offer that kind of stuff too, but this is proven volume, proven production, and a Mike Shanahan offense. Really, Nick Marsh can't go wrong here with either of these two squads. odds. However, if Indiana wins the national championship, they are going to have a whole lot of momentum going into the offseason with not just transfer portal, but recruiting and everything else. He's a physical 6'3" receiver, very strong frame. I mean, if you've watched the Big Ten this season, you've seen Nick Marsh and just said, man, can we just get him on a better football team than what he's on right now with Michigan State? Unfortunately for them, Pat Fitzgerald was unable to keep him, but I don't think he ever really had a chance at keeping him. Sounds like Nick Marsh was pretty well ready to go during the season as well. Number 3, Trent Fraley from North Dakota State. He is going to be visiting Penn State and Michigan State, or he's lining up visits to go to Penn State and Michigan State. Now, he is the number 220 national player in the On3 industry transfer portal rankings, and on for the inside offensive lineman, he is the number 16 player there. So coming from the FCS, he is an FCS All-American selection. He's lining up visits to Penn State and Michigan State, like I said. But Pete Nakos also referenced in there Florida State and Iowa State were visits that he would be lining up as well. Fraley is originally from Pennsylvania, so you see the connection there. Moon area, I believe, was the high school that he played at. And then the connection to Michigan is he is the son of the Detroit Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley. So there's kind of connections in both spots here. I think both of those connections seem to make him not more likely, but more favorable for Penn State or Michigan State here. He's known for his pass blocking. It was a 2-year starter at center. This would be his 5th year of playing college football because he did only play in one game his very first year at Marshall. So he does have that red shirt, but he would have 1 year of eligibility remaining. I think this would be a great pickup for either team here. Both of these teams are going to be kind of replacing their offensive line, and getting an experienced guy like Trent Fraley, All-American, comes from a winning program in the FCS at North Dakota State. I think he would be a great addition for both of these two teams, and we'll just have to see if either of them come out on top with him. Number 4, here you go, Ohio State. Okay, all right. I wasn't bashing you earlier with Koi Perich. Don't worry. But got a visit coming for Ohio State, according to Steve Wiltfong, of Kayin Lee from Auburn. Now, I know Ohio State fans, as soon as I say that, you're going to say, holy cow, the signing day flipped to Auburn back in, what was that, 2022, I think it was. Now, he is the 129 national player in the On3 industry transfer portal rankings. He is the number 13 cornerback. I think he's better than that personally. I know that things did not go super well for him over there at Auburn, but overall, Steve Wiltfong says that he's going to be visiting on January 4th per a source. So that's just one source. Typically in these things, you don't put out reporting unless you get multiple sourcing on this stuff. But in the transfer world and how fast paced everything is, it is something you kind of have to put out there with maybe less sourcing than usual, maybe not publicly, but on a message board or something like that. And that's where Steve Wiltfong put this over there. He also said that he is visiting Ole Miss today on January 3rd as well. So it sounds like Ohio State, the Ole Miss, the two teams in the race there. He is going to be entering his 4th year of college football. He has not redshirted, so technically he would have a redshirt available if anything were to happen. But 3 years of starting experience. He will be a senior this year. He played for a defensive quality control person at Ohio State, Miguel Patrick, at Cedar Grove in Ellenwood, Georgia, and he was committed to Ohio State for a long time. He was committed to Ohio State, but he ultimately chose to go to Auburn because of the Hugh Freeze hiring, the secondary coach being retained there that he really, really liked, and then also a promise of early playing time at Auburn, which he did get. He started the first 3 games of the 2023 season. I think he started 1 game after that because of injuries elsewhere. But he did eventually start in both 2024 and 2025 every single game. So a lot of starting experience here, a lot of familiarity here. He is a very fast, very physical type of cornerback out there. He plays bigger and more powerful than his listed size. I mean, his listed size on PFF is only 5'11", 180, but he has an excellent ability to change direction. He is a legit 4-3 cornerback out there, but he would not be playing outside corner for Ohio State. He would be playing slot corner, and this is believed for why Bryce West entered the portal. Now, we're all, we're all adults here. We understand what the transfer portal is right now. There is most likely some tampering going on in this situation, but guess what? Nobody is visiting the day of the portal opening without some tampering. As I've said for a long time, your team tampers, everybody's team tampers. It's just a matter of who's the better tamper at this point. And it's clear that Ohio State kind of set this stuff up, and there may have been some conversations with Bryce West going into the transfer portal to say, hey, look, we've got a guy that we think is most likely going to come here. He's really our ideal fit, and it looks like he is probably going to come in and be the slot corner for Ohio State if he does come there. And I think Ohio State feels pretty confident they're going to get him to transfer to Ohio State. I would not expect this to impact Aaron Scott and what he does moving forward. I think that from what I've been told, there's going to be some more rotating of Scott, Matthews, and Sanchez next year. We'll see how that works out, but that's kind of the way it works. Number 5, Owen Chambliss, San Diego State, visiting Nebraska. He is the number 130 player in the transfer portal on 3 industry rankings. Number 6 linebacker. Greg Biggins said, quote, set for his first official visit this weekend and could be one and done, end quote. There, he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. One of those would, be a red shirt if he utilized it, but he would be most likely coming with his former defensive coordinator of San Diego State, Rob Urich, who was hired to be Nebraska's defensive coordinator this offseason. He's interested in going to Nebraska, obviously, because of the familiarity of the defense and also the linebacker struggles that Nebraska was going to have this upcoming season if they did not find anybody in the transfer portal. And Owen Chambliss had a fantastic season. I believe he was 3rd in tackles nationally this year, so he was fantastic. Would be a really good get for Nebraska. He would really excel in Urich's defense, and then obviously when a coordinator is able to bring a guy like this, a leader, a guy that can be a captain for the team onto his defense to kind of help everybody come along with it, it's going to be huge for them. So Nebraska is positioned very favorably here, but Ohio State and Tennessee are also involved in this one, trying to set up visits. I would say if Chambliss takes a visit elsewhere, I would be concerned as a Nebraska fan, but by all accounts, you would think he commits pretty quickly after this visit. I mean, could even happen tomorrow, Saturday, for this to actually happen. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, those are the 5 guys we're going to talk about. The other one I'll mention, kind of like a bonus guy, but I'm not going to talk about him, would be Kayin Houser, the quarterback from East Carolina University. He started his career at Michigan State, played there a little bit, but then the firing of Mel Tucker and everything and kind of the way that whole debacle went, he transferred to East Carolina University, got some starting time there, played really well, and now it looks like that Illinois could be the team that gets Kayin Houser to come there. That he is in a battle with another team, an SEC team, actually. But if you want to hear more on that, go on over to Talk Illini, Illinois basketball and football channel over there for their On3 network. You can check us out. Me, Sonny, and Carson Bounds doing a great job over there covering the team. Sonny and Carson are going to do a video on that today at some point, so just be on the lookout for when that gets up. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back and then we'll talk about some other things going on with Oregon, Indiana, give some early thoughts there and what we think. Be right back. And we're back. Welcome back. Appreciate you being here. 3 early thoughts on what might be different for Oregon versus Indiana in the college football playoffs. Obviously, this team played on October 11th. Indiana got the win 30-20. Oregon was the favorite in that game. In this one on FanDuel, Indiana is the favorite by 4.5. The under-over set at 47.5. What will 90 days do to make this matchup different? Well, we saw the Ole Miss Georgia game. A lot of people thought that one wouldn't be different. Maybe there would be some motivation for Ole Miss, but from a fantastic performance by Trinidad Chambliss, and not just him. I mean, there were plenty of other guys on that team that did a fantastic job, but just kind of some of the circus stuff he was able to do. And that one really showed how much this Ole Miss team wanted to win this one and how fantastic it was for them. So super good performance by them. Very happy for Ole Miss. And if you're an Oregon fan, you love to see that because you're saying, okay, if Ole Miss can get the get back on Georgia, then maybe Oregon can get the get back on Indiana. We're going to talk through some of this stuff, kind of get you some of my thoughts. And then I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section, what you think about this game early on. Do you think any of the 3 things I say here are meaningful? Do they, if you're an Oregon fan, do they excite you? If you're an Indiana fan, do they make you nervous? Or vice versa. If you're an Oregon fan, do these not excite you? If you're an Indiana fan, do these make you excited? So let me know in the comments what you think there. Number one, both teams have grown and gained more experience. So Oregon is a very young team. In fact, their team is made up of 70 freshmen and sophomores. That is 70 out of 112 on their roster. 62.5% of their team are freshmen and sophomores. Well, freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and sophomores. That is absolutely crazy. We talked about the youth of this Oregon team. They're not quite as young as like a Nebraska or a Michigan or a Maryland is this season, but still one of the youngest teams in the country that's been contending for a national championship. I don't have all the numbers on like the SEC and in Miami and stuff like that, but they are a very young team in college football, and so the youth of this team to be able to go throughout the entire season. They were only playing for about a month and a half before they faced Indiana. And don't get me wrong, I'm not using that as an excuse. Indiana won that game, but I am saying that with some more time to play and some more time for the coaches to kind of understand their team, and in addition to that, you have 8 transfers starting on this team as well. So only and those are only transfers from this year. I mean, Dante Moore transferred in 2 years ago, so you could add him to the number as well if you wanted to. But 8 transfers that came in this year. Oregon's coaches are starting to understand their team better, their roster, what they do better. So the whole thought process is, can Oregon pull off what Ole Miss pulled off against Georgia? I think the difference here is that Indiana is a much better team than Georgia, in my opinion. But I also think Oregon is a better team than Ole Miss. So this can be a very interesting thing, especially when you think about my number 2 point, which is Dante Moore, who has seen this Indiana secondary before. One thing I've noticed in basically every single game that Indiana has played is that the quarterbacks come out being confused at what they're seeing downfield. It was very, very evident in that game against Indiana or Ohio State against the Indiana. Julian Sand, yes, he got sacked multiple times, but some of that was also just coverage sacks because Julian Sand couldn't figure out where to go with the ball. He was trying to go deep and he was seeing things that he hadn't seen before. If the Big Ten didn't care if I brought up all 22, I'd bring up the all 22 and show you. But there was coverage happening downfield that he was not getting pre-snap, he was not getting during the snap, and then he was not getting while he was being sacked back there. One of the crazy things that Indiana is able to do is actually some of the stuff that Ohio State has done is being able to switch up their zone and their man coverage together, being able to work those two things together, being able to have half of your team, well, not half, but some of your players playing zone and some of your players playing man. It's absolutely fantastic work by Brian Haynes, and just goes to show how much of a defensive mastermind he is. And I want to see, what does that look like? What does Brian Haynes have more for Dante Moore or in this one? Or is he going to try to come out with some similar stuff? And is Dante Moore going to be more used to what happened there? And if he is, that would be huge for them. And also, we have to think about what Oregon looked like on third down. That was their worst performance of the season on third down, 21.4% third down conversion percentage. The only problem is that they had their now worst third down conversion rate of the season against Texas Tech, 21% in that game. So even worse against Texas Tech than it was. I believe they were 4 of 19 in that one, and they were 3 of 14 against Indiana. But Moore did do better, and the offensive line did do better on third down. Even though the conversion rate was worse, you still saw better play. Dante Moore was 4 of 7 for 64 yards against Indiana, but he was sacked 3 times on third down. Against Texas Tech, Moore was 7 of 9, and he was only sacked 1 time against Texas Tech, and that was with more third down conversion pieces there. And Texas Tech has David Bailey and other guys on there that are just really, really special edge rushers. And I'm not saying that Indiana doesn't have special edge rushers. Don't get me wrong. But Stephen Daly is out now. And how much is that going to impact things? Didn't really seem to impact things very much against Alabama, but I also think Alabama has a much, much worse offensive line than what Oregon has. Sorry, Alabama fans, if you're continuing to watch this channel, you might not like that comment. And then I'll say finally, my third point here kind of goes into what I just talked about, but will the O line be better for Oregon in this one? I think Oregon has a much better offensive line than Alabama, but the last time they played IU, it did not look great. I think something that a lot of people don't realize that Oregon's offensive line was able to do pretty well in that game was they actually did do a pretty good job of run blocking. They had 4.8 yards per carry sack adjusted. One of the issues was the passing game and how much Dante Moore was sacked in the second half of that game. They allowed 6 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. They allowed 24 total quarterback pressures in that game, and their offensive line at home had 3 penalties in that game as well. So this was one of those games for Oregon that was not their best offensive line performance of the season. It was coming after the Wisconsin game where the offensive line was not great in the first half, but that Wisconsin front seven is better than people give credit for. And so there was a little bit more understanding there, especially when you get into the rain and some of that other stuff. But there is a difference between Texas Tech and Indiana. Texas Tech comes at you much more straightforward, kind of trusting their guys to beat the individual offensive linemen. And they did beat Oregon's offensive linemen. In the first half, that was pretty evident, but in the second half, that got cleaned up much more, and I think Oregon really adjusted and did much better. That's why, obviously, you saw more scoring in the second half for Oregon there. But Indiana, they come at you from all angles. They come at you with stunts and twists and all different kinds of things they throw at you. They really aim to confuse you and then overpower you. And that's not to say that they can't overpower you at all, but it's just some of the schematical things that Bryant Haynes does with this defense, with this defensive line, and also getting the linebackers in play as well. If Oregon can find a way to really stretch this team when they're putting 2, 3 linebackers on the field, maybe lining up Kenyon Sadiq and Jamari Johnson both on the outside, making the linebackers have to get out of the box and cover those guys, that could be a whole lot more beneficial in this game for them. But the issue is if you do that, then you're leaving this offensive line against a really good pass rush in Indiana that does an excellent job of confusing the Oregon team. And so that's my other question is, has the Oregon offensive line learned from the first meeting to be able to say, okay, these are the kind of stunts and twists they're going to be throwing at us. Can we combat those things? Or does Bryant Haynes have more for him, right? Does Bryant Haynes have more to be able? Yeah, I'm going to give you, you thought you saw it all in the first meeting. Let's see what it looks like in this one. I'm absolutely fascinated with this matchup. I do have Indiana getting the win early in this one. I still feel like they are the best team in the nation at this point, but I do think that Oregon could have an advantage. I don't know if they do, but I think they could have an advantage in this game. And playing as team twice, they always say it's hard to beat a team 2 times, and we saw that with Ole Miss and Georgia. Could we see that again in this one with Indiana and Oregon? Let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right, take another break, and we'll be right back. All right, let's talk some basketball. I have not talked enough basketball on this channel this season. I'm really looking forward to getting into some more of the basketball talk here. So, if you like that I am mentioning some basketball now, hit that like and subscribe button. Would definitely appreciate it. And let me know what your thoughts have been overall, not just the games that we saw on Friday night. The Oregon and Maryland, the Nebraska Michigan State, great game by the way. Going to be talking about that one for sure. Ohio State Rutgers and the Michigan USC, not a great game. Michigan, can you give us a good game at some point? I mean, come on, you're beating everybody by 30 plus. All right, give us a good game at some point, guys. Come on. No, I'm kidding. I know Michigan fans have no problem with just blowing out every single team that they face. It seems like so. Number 2 team in the country, and they might just deserve to be the number 1 team in the country with the way they've been playing and doing so well against other teams. Anyway, we'll get to them a little bit later on. But give me a like and subscribe if you do that. And if you're on podcasts, some of the podcasting places out there like Spotify, you can actually leave comments for that as well. Please do leave a comment on Spotify. I'm going to be starting to check that stuff more often. So if you would greatly appreciate if you do that as well, in addition to your 5-star rating and review. All right, let's get to some of this stuff. So Nebraska and Michigan State was obviously the top tier game that we saw, and Nebraska came out on top in this game, 58-56. My number 1 takeaway from Friday night was Nebraska's undefeated run hits new heights with their win over Michigan State, a gritty win over Michigan State, with Fred Hoiberg saying that this was the game that he wanted to see. Like, this was the way that he wanted to see his team win that he had not seen yet. A gritty win over this Michigan State team, who is a gritty team Nebraska is right now number 13th in the country. They stay perfect, 14-0, 3-0 in the Big Ten, and they get the win over Michigan State, who is now 12-2. Delivered their first loss in the Big Ten at 2-1, extending the longest streak to 18 games in the country, because Nebraska did win that crown last season. So if you add that in addition to everything else, this is the longest Division One winning streak in the country for Nebraska at 18 games. Pretty spectacular to see the Nebraska Cornhuskers doing this. Well, a key performance in this one was Rank Mass, 19 points, 6 threes this game. Price Sanford adds 13 despite some early fouls as well. The Huskers forced 19 turnovers by the Spartans in this one in defensive battle. They overcame adversity. They survived Michigan State's rebounding edge, where Carson Cooper had 13 boards in this game, and they had a late drought that really gave Michigan State the opportunity to get back in this one. Jackson Kohler, give a lot of credit to him, 19 points, 11 rebounds for him. He was huge in keeping this close, but this was a historic top 15 matchup at Pinnacle Bank Arena. It shakes up the Big Ten standings. It proves Nebraska is legit. Well, it doesn't prove that they're legitimate, but like at this point, and maybe this is the takeaway I should have, it's like, can we stop saying that Nebraska is for real? Like, I heard the announcer say that at the end. I'm not trying to come after the announcer. Obviously, he's just, saying what comes to his head and trying to, say something interesting. But like, it's like, oh, we now finally know Nebraska is for real. Like, this is a Nebraska team that beat Illinois. Like, this isn't a Nebraska team that hasn't faced anybody this year. I'm not going to say they've had the hardest gauntlet in the world, but they beat Illinois. I know Wisconsin's not great this season, but they beat Wisconsin by 30. They beat Illinois at Illinois in that game by 3 points. That was another close one that they got. They beat Oklahoma. I know they're not necessarily the greatest team, the greatest team ever right now. I mean, Oklahoma, well, they only have 3 losses. I forgot about that. They only have 3 losses. So Oklahoma, a good team. Nebraska was able to beat them. Is it the hardest schedule in the world? No, but they've beaten multiple teams that, maybe this Nebraska team in the past wouldn't have beaten. Fred Hoiberg's done a fantastic job with them. They stormed the court after this one, which, if you're a Nebraska fan, go crazy, do it. But I think this was a fantastic win for Nebraska. Number 2, Michigan's depth and defense overcome adversity in a blowout win over USC. Michigan dealt with some adversity in this one with some injuries and stuff, but the number 2 Michigan Wolverines improved to 13-0, 2-0 in the Big Ten with a 96-66 victory over number 24 USC, now 12-2, 1-2 in the Big Ten. Their 8th 30-plus win of the season. 8. They have 13 wins. Over half of their games have been 30-plus wins. Again, Michigan, give us some good games, okay? Help us out here. But key performances by Merez Johnson Jr. He scored a career high 29 points in this game, 10 of 12 from the field. Elliot Cadeau had a very he's such a quiet point guard, but he does such a good job. He's like exactly what this team needs. He had 7 assists despite some poor shooting, and he's not going to be known as the best shooter in the world. But this team, their defense forced 21 USC turnovers for 24 points. The injury to Yaxel Lindeborg and Namari Burnett limited their play time, but the depth shined in this one. It just goes to show that this isn't just a Yaxel Lindeborg team. I mean, this is a top 25 matchup here that Michigan was able to get, albeit at home. USC had the travel and everything, but still, not no Yaxel Lindeborg, but limited time and stuff. So fantastic win for Michigan, and right now it looks like the Big Ten, drought of national championships very well could end this year with this Michigan team. This Michigan team looks like the best or the second best team in the country. I'd rank them number 1 personally if it was me. I understand that Arizona has been really good this season as well and everything. They have some key marquee wins this year. They beat Alabama, they beat Auburn, UCLA, UConn. I mean, they have some Florida to begin the year. That's obviously going to skyrocket them up, beating Florida there right away to start the year. But with the way this Michigan team is playing right now and how they're just kind of destroying everybody, it's quad 2 win for Michigan, really going to boost their candidacy. Even if they do fall off at some point, which I don't think they are, they still are going to have an amazing argument to be a 1 seed with stuff like this. So Chad Baker Mazzara, less fouls, please. I mean, he did have an illness, so we'll give him a little bit of a break there. But yeah, a lot of issues there with the fouls of Chad Baker Mazzaro, and then obviously the absence of Rodney Rice impacted things here for USC as well. Number three takeaway. Ohio State's second half surge highlights their Big Ten resilience and the difference from what they were last season. Ohio State does move to 10-3, 2-1 in the Big Ten, 80-73 comeback victory over Rutgers, who is now 7-7. I mean, Rutgers isn't a great team. Again, they're 7-7. I'm not gonna talk about how great Rutgers is or anything like that and how it's a great win, but they did erase a 15-point first half deficit in this game, and they were able to lead and really shut down Rutgers in the final 5 minutes of this game, which was, not something we saw a lot of them last year. A lot of times we'd see them get late into the fourth quarter and kind of squander away leads. And you didn't even need like a Bruce Thornton 30 plus, 40 plus performance in this one. He had 20 points and 10 rebounds, a good double double, but you got nice help from Devin Royal, who added 16. Tariq Francis got 17 off the bench for Rutgers, and that was nice to see. But overall, you didn't let the best guys on Rutgers beat you in this one. You did a good job locking down on defense when you needed to, and you got the points to go with it. It was a drought there that Ohio State had to get themselves into the 15-point hole, but they were able to come back and they were able to get the win in this one. A lot of props to Jake Diebler, Ohio State. I'd like it more if it was against a better team. I don't think you should be getting down 15 points to a team like Rutgers, but you know what? It is what it is at this point. Ohio State's not going to confuse anybody for a title contender, but they are a team that can make the NCAA tournament this year. And if you're Jake Diebler, you need to make that happen to save your job. So a lot of clutch stuff from Thornton so far this year, and I think if Ohio State's going to make the NCAA tournament, you're going to have to continue to see that clutch stuff happen. Number four, Oregon's interior dominance just exposed Maryland's offensive struggles that were already greatly there. Oregon earned their first Big Ten win. They're 8-6 on the year, 1-2. They've not been great. Maryland is 7-7 on the year, 0-3 in the Big Ten. Not a great season so far for Buzz Williams and the guys. A lot of offensive issues, and Nate Biddle doesn't help that either, as Nate Biddle tallies 16.7 rebounds and 5 blocks. Kwame Evans Jr. returned. He went 12-8, and then Maryland Solomon Washington. He got 17 and a double double, but just unfortunate for Maryland that it really didn't get much help out there to be able to do that. The Ducks played without Jackson Shellstad in this one, and they outscored Maryland 32-12 in the paint, despite the 5 threes in this one as well. So Maryland drops to 0-3 in the Big Ten. I mean, this team doesn't have enough talent, quite frankly. I think they're going to have more talent coming in, but just not enough talent for this Maryland team. So if you're a Maryland fan, it's really unfortunate, but that's just kind of the world that Maryland fans are living in right now. Terps were the Oregon limited the Terps to 28% field goal percentage and 20% from three. Pharrell Payne needs to return as soon as possible to try and salvage this season, just salvage whatever they can. I mean, this is not a tournament team. They're not going to confuse anybody with the tournament team, but to give the fans some hope. I mean, Buzz Williams isn't getting fired after 1 year, but to give the fans some hope and stuff, you need to get Pharrell Payne back to salvage the season here. So we'll see. And finally, takeaway number 5, injuries and turnovers define a night of uneven performances across the conference. Turnovers plagued teams. Michigan State had 19, USC had 21. Maryland actually did a better job of taking care of the ball. And this one was getting ready. When I saw Michigan State had 19 and USC had 21, I was like, oh, we'll check Maryland really fast. Maryland, I think they only had 10 in this game. Let me double check here just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. But yeah, Maryland only had 9 turnovers in that game. They forced 13 on Oregon, but just weren't able to put together the offense to make that happen. So we'll see how it goes. But Johnson, Morris Johnson, he had 29. Thornton had a double-double in this one. Really good performances from them. Nate Biddle, his blocks, his defensive show that he was able to put on. Fast break, Michigan was 26-2 on the fast break over USC. Not good for USC. Great for Michigan, but this team in Michigan just looks unbeatable at this point. They're not going to get throughout the entire season. I mean, they might go throughout the entire season undefeated, but they just look unbeatable at this point, especially the defense to be able to turn over a team that much. It's crazy what Michigan is able to do this season. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year, but be on the lookout tomorrow night. You got Minnesota and Northwestern. Trying to find let me find the spread on that one. On FanDuel, Northwestern favored by 5.5 on that one. If you go to UCLA, Iowa, that should be a good one on Saturday night. Getting my nights mixed up here. Iowa favored by 6.5 over UCLA. So Iowa, the favored one there. Iowa's at home. I apologize. Northwestern's at home as well. And then Illinois. Oh boy, don't want to go back and face the Penn State Nittany Lions again. But good news, they are favored by 17.5. Last season, I looked to see Illinois try to get some revenge after they was it the last one they played that they got the loss there. Nope, I just double checked. It was the first one last year, 90-89. Penn State got the win. Now, when they traveled to Illinois, Illinois had their way with them. But get the revenge, the revenge there at Penn State for Illinois. We'll see if they can make it happen. They're favored by 17.5 on FanDuel, and then finally Purdue and Wisconsin. Then we find the stuff there. Purdue and Wisconsin. Purdue favored on the road in this one by 6.5 over Wisconsin. Looking forward to all that, and thank you for listening and watching here on the Big Ten Huddle. Go ahead and check out all the other videos and everything we got. I always post these, kind of as breakdowns and stuff. So if you ever miss an episode here on the podcast, you can always go watch it over on the YouTube feed as well. Or if there's individual segments you want to watch, I break those up there as well. So thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you next time.